into a lot more detail. So let's start with the dollar itself, which, yeah, I was looking for a bullish move this week. I was looking for, I mean, technically we have kind of seen that, just not to the extent I was looking for. I was looking to see if price can make a move back to the swing high at 98.56 and a bit higher. I was talking about around 99 as well. And the analysis coming into the week was pretty simple. We had this continuation. I'm looking for the pullback of that for the next leg. Of course, I'm well aware that if we look to the higher time frames, the market is truly still bearish. We're still seeing lower lows and lower highs. And you can see overall, there is a downward spiral here. Yes, we're starting to fade at lows a little bit. You can see with the crosshair. So it does look like price. Let me actually darken the crosshair up because it can make it a bit more obvious. Canvas. Turn to line. There we go. So yeah, you can see the overall daily chart is down. So we have to be a bit more careful with the buying opportunities. They're still there. You still can go counter trend, but you need to be a bit more careful. But anyway, we had the pullback this week. Price was pretty steep early on, which is why I said I'm being a bit hesitant jumping in. This wasn't slow, corrective, how I typically want my pullbacks to look like. This was pretty pacey. And when the pullbacks are slightly stronger, when we're seeing a bit more effort, I tend to kind of be a bit more patient, and sometimes I just avoid them altogether, just because my best opportunities when I'm trading pullbacks is when it's slow and corrective. Fast, yeah, sure, sometimes it will work, but in my experience, it's not always the best. So that's why I was a bit more patient. And then since then, we have become quite corrective, and since then, we have had a bit of a push. What do I expect now from the dollar? Well, yeah, CS Integrator summed up quite well. We do pretty much have consolidation here, really. So we had that big bullish candle. That was Thursday. That's price attempting to try and go high, attempting to try and put a higher low in and come back to attack the highs. But that has failed. So now we're coming back into this area. Now, there could be a slight bounce on like an intraday chart, maybe like if I drop to like a 30-minute time frame. There could be a slight bounce here because we are coming back into this kind of area of demand area where we did see that momentum come from, and you can see we're tapping into it now. So I wouldn't be surprised if from here we do have a little bit move to the upside, maybe back to resistance, but I can't be confident with a move back to here. So back to 98.56. I like the price action here, very aggressive, you know, taking out all this structure to our left. And then you can see we had a really nice corrective pullback, first drop, second drop, a pattern which I love trading all the time, bull flags if you will. I would say price can recover back above this area here. So if this candle can close back above that, it'll close in about 50 minutes time. That could be a nice entry in itself, you know, tapping into this area, which is what gave us the move. And then, yeah, I do think we can see a push to resistance around there. This, though, I don't really have too much backing that scenario happening because we had an aggressive move at the start of the week. Not start of the week, sorry. Thursday, get my days mixed up. We had an aggressive move on Thursday, but that just didn't do anything really. So now you're kind of hoping to see another big move out of nowhere, which may or may not happen. That's just more like guesswork, really. A push back to resistance, sure, I can see that happening, but altogether, we are just kind of in this range, and that might just eventually spill over into something like this, and maybe we just kind of slowly, you know, head bearish and see that higher time frame trend continue. So, because of that, I don't really like the price action with the dollar. Yes, intraday, there might be a nice bounce there, a pop there for, you know, a few hours. I think that's a nice opportunity, but really, that's the best I can see. Until we can see a strong close above this, then yeah, a push back to the highs back on and maybe further. If not, I kind of expect dollar at some point just to be back and forth really. And that will of course have repercussions on other USD pairs, which we'll take a look at now. If I go take a look at Euro USD, which for the most part is again the inverse of the DXY. So pretty much all the analysis I mentioned there pretty much is the same with Euro. Internet's a little bit slow in my location, so do bear with me, ladies and gents. But yeah, this is Euro, so you can see similar kind of drop there. Of course, the other direction to what the dollar did. Dollar had a big candle trying to push high. In this case, we had a big candle trying to push lower, and it didn't really make too much of a dent beyond this support level. You can see on the 4-hour chart, we've got a collection of wicks here. So this is really the support that needs to break if euro dollar is going to make a move back down here and maybe turn bearish. because what we have here is a pretty aggressive recovery, and then price just gone into a consolidation. So now it's kind of 50-50. Is this going to be a lower high? It could be, but this is what needs to be cleared. If that does get cleared, then you're looking really good, and you can probably see a pushback down to that low. So for Euro and DXY, it's the same situation really. I'd wait for resistance to clear or support to clear. Resistance for the DXY, support for Euro, and that will give us a continuation. So if I drop to an intraday chart, I mean, for Euro, I can see a lower high potential developing here for pushback down. But yeah, it's the support that's the issue. Because if that support doesn't break, you can very much see price continue back to the highs and further. Excuse me, I do have a bit of a sore throat at the moment as well. So might be a lot of coughing during the stream, but we'll still get through the analysis. Anyway, so we do have a lot of support there, so we need to watch out for that. If price does eventually get the break, then we're looking really bearish, and I do expect price to continue lower. So what you could do is wait for a strong break of that support area. Either taking it on the break or waiting for some intraday pullbacks can make a lot of sense, and there I would expect to push back to that low. Otherwise, it's just the range really, and price could be back and forth, and until we kind of get a sustained move, I'm not too sure really what Euro is doing, which is why the thumbnail and the title read patience, because I'm not too sure. So the shorts intraday, Livia, I don't mind that, but you would have to watch out for this support level. 1.17149. Anything beyond that, yeah, you're going to have to wait for a strong break of that support level. And of course, if you do break higher, I wouldn't be too worried about that, because this is still a very significant area. Big area of supply, of course, gave us a very aggressive move lower. Price could very much tap into that and still continue to the downside. So this actually is didn't mean to do that. This is actually still a very nice place for a short. I actually like this place for a short, especially because we are in a consolidation as well. So if price can push higher, tap into that area, yeah, I think that could be a nice place for a bit more aggressive, but I think the risk reward makes sense and the location makes sense as well. So really for Euro, the analysis is, okay, keep an eye on this area, keep an eye on the break of that support, not so keen trading inside of this. And then, yeah, we can be talking about pushback to that low again. In terms of pound USD, I am, again, you can see the same support level in pretty much all the USD pairs. They're all kind of and ahhing if they're actually going to make a move lower. What I will say is they are very tired. And it's not like we're seeing... We had a very sharp retracement to begin with, but it's not like that momentum has particularly continued. So as a result, I do think we're tiring. I do think most likely a lower high is going to form. I do think we'll eventually will continue back to lows. That is what I'm expecting to see from the USD pairs. And a good component, or what's the right word? A good area to keep an eye on is, again, that support level. If we jump back to Euro, it's going to be that support level. And of course, the dollar, it's going to be that resistance level. If that can break, then you're looking really good. But yeah, for pound USD, in terms of the bigger picture, coming into the week, I was pretty bearish, looking for a lot more downside for this one. Of course, we did come back into some major support. So I did say watch out for a pullback, but I did say as well that anywhere in this area is a good area for a pullback, a good area for a short. If price was to go and take out this high, that would be a worry. For the bears anyway, that would be a worry. As of now, that hasn't been the case. Price is still respecting that area. And I would just mention, if we do break through that area, it could be a really nice short opportunity back into support. Somewhat of a head and shoulder pattern as well. I think I am reading a bit too much into it. Left head, right shoulder. It has the components of a head and shoulder pattern, not the cleanest or the tidiest, but yeah, we haven't really seen sustained momentum here, so I do think we'll eventually spill over back into support. Dollar CAD's interesting. That one was pretty bullish. Again, I'm still not particularly keen shorting dollar CAD because I still do have somewhat of a dollar bullish bias. So I'm still not particularly keen, even though it's in a nice area. Back at major supply, we could very much turn around here and see some downside, but because I do have that kind of bullish bias on the dollar, I don't feel too comfortable about selling dollar CAD. I'd rather wait for opportunities to maybe short pound or maybe short euro or some of the other USD pairs we'll talk about in a moment. So yeah, dollar CAD, because of that situation, because of that bias I have, I'm kind of backing away. But in terms of just purely the technicals, we are in a nice area. But if you're looking to short, you have to be patient, because you can see prior to this, price would create a high, pull back, create a new high, and then have a really aggressive drop slightly after. In this case, we've taken out the high. We tried to have that aggressive drop. It didn't quite happen. And now we're looking moderately bullish. So we could still turn around, but I need to see a really aggressive bearish move, similar to the candlestick we had here, to tell us that, okay, the bears are really stepping in. Price isn't really, continuing. Maybe it's kind of testing this channel trend line, so to speak, and maybe we are going to top out. Unless we see something like that, I would back away, because the momentum is with the bulls here, and this could continue and break structure, especially if USD is going to be bullish after all. So I would be quite careful because of that. But if we do see momentum come through, that is an interesting place for a short. In terms of Aussie dollar, but like I said, I'm not so keen because of my USD take. In terms of Aussie dollar, this one, again, another USD pair, which I was pretty interested in at the start of the week to short. I did say, because of the way price retraced, it didn't look quite ready. And in retrospect, it did make sense because we ended up having a much deeper pullback. But I said for this one at the start of the week, as long as we don't take up this high, I'm pretty bearish for Aussie, looking for a push back into this low. And for somewhat, that is still the plan. It's just really, really awkward, and not seeing a crystal clear opportunity to short this one. Similar to the other USD pairs, I would argue we are kind of stuck in a range a little bit. Maybe a convincing bearish candle through that. If we get a statement candle like this, that would make things very bearish. I wouldn't suggest that's a great opportunity in terms of the 4-hour chart, but I would definitely argue if you can drop to like a 30 or a 15, there could be some nice pullback opportunities to take some shorts. Something like this. This is a 30-minute chart, and off you go. It could be a nice pullback opportunity like that. So I would keep a close eye there for Aussie dollar. That could see, that looks like a nice entry to me, but the only reason why I would be a bit skeptical is just because we are very sideways. And you don't want to get too caught up on opportunities in isolation. You want to take everything in context. Because at the end of the day, trading, you're not trading crazy strategies, or you're not Einstein here. You're just looking to find patterns that repeat themselves and trade them. But context is so important. So it's not like, okay, I just spot a double top, and because there is one, I would just look to trade it. It has to be in context, it has to make sense. So yeah, because of that, I probably wouldn't entertain that short idea. But later on, once we break support, I think that could look interesting. As for New Zealand dollar, this one, again, I still do have somewhat of a bearish bias, particularly on the weekly chart, actually, which is a bit more of a statement. And the reason why I say that is because I'm looking at these major highs, and it looks like to me that price is putting another one in over here. And I do think we could do something like that, potentially back to support. Again, more of a long-term bias. We don't need to concern ourselves with that just yet, but it's nice to know that could be the direction we're trading in. In terms of the more intra-week, intraday price action, that's where it gets a bit tricky, because I'm looking at these lows, and every time the market creates a new low, it has a pretty big pullback. And we've seen kind of one happen now, the start of one at least. So even though I am dollar bull, well, I'm leaning towards dollar bull. I'm not necessarily dollar bullish yet, but I'm leaning towards that direction. So even though I'm leaning that way, I wouldn't be looking to short New Zealand dollar because of the location and the structure I'm seeing. Every time price creates a low, takes it out, pretty big pullback. Takes it out, pretty big pullback. Takes it out again. Could we have another big pullback? Potentially. Excuse me. So yeah, potentially price could have another big pullback. So because of that, I don't think this is a great place to short, even though you could argue that we are approaching some nice areas of supply. I just don't think it is a great place to short. So I would stay away and then look for opportunities in other USD pairs. This one, not in a great place. In terms of gold, I do think gold is, I mean, again, especially with gold and silver, I mean, I'm looking at gold. Did we take 3,900? I don't think we did. Okay, missed it by the smallest amount. So yeah, I mean, 3,900 is our next big one. Beyond that is 4K, and we're not far away from 4K at all. I thought 4K was a huge overestimation for gold back in like April, May. But we're actually not far away. We might hit that in October. So crazy, crazy stuff for gold. But yeah, still very, very bullish. Still very, very bullish. Intraday, would I be looking to buy? Would I be looking to sell? No. I mean, I'm seeing some momentum come into the market. So it's a sign that, okay, bears are kicking in. We just failed at highs over here. So I'm seeing more signs the bears are kicking in. That's putting me off buys intraday. Momentum, failed at highs. That's putting me off buys. Doesn't mean we can't go higher. Just doesn't mean it's an optimal buying opportunity. Would I look to sell? Especially, yeah, no, I still wouldn't look to sell. I'm still seeing consistent higher lows. It's a situation where you could look to sell. This could be a nice double top potentially, and the market could potentially drop from here. I could see that happening. But is it optimal? Is it the best conditions for it? I don't think it is. Going back to my previous short last week with gold, where was that? That was over here. I already had a few lower highs in my favor, so it made a bit more sense for the short. Here, yes, I got some equal highs there, but I like price to kind of continue a little bit further, and then I grab a short there somewhere. Just because we're so aggressive in the higher time frames, I like to be extra careful. But yeah, I do think we are failing at highs a little bit here. There might be a bit of a push down. I still think it's a really, really aggressive, so I wouldn't take it personally. But I do think maybe we might have a bit of a breather. Yeah, gold is still bullish. 4K is still likely to be hit, but maybe do you see a bit of a counter bearish move for now, just to have a bit of a breather. It is much needed. Silver showing signs of that happening as well. Very, very close to all-time highs and hitting that big psychological level at 50. That is still where I do see silver heading towards, but again, dropping a bit more intraday. You can see we're still having aggressive moves down. This doesn't necessarily stop silver pushing up. We can still very much push up. We're still respecting lows here. So I wouldn't really start looking to sell just yet. But let's see if the market does break structure. Well, okay. That does open up some shorts. And if you're looking to buy, I would wait for a push back into lows again. But I wouldn't be looking for anything crazy, just because we're kind of fading at highs a little bit. Momentum is slowing. We're still seeing aggressive momentum there. So I think we can see a bounce, but again, nothing crazy.